There is a conversation you may have never spoken out loud, but you have heard it thousands of times in your own mind. That conversation happens in very familiar moments. In the morning, when the alarm rings. At night, when you know you should work a little longer. Or when you stand in front of a difficult task that you have been avoiding for a long time. And at that moment, two voices begin to appear. The first voice is very familiar. It speaks very gently. It's okay to rest a little today. You've done enough already. Tomorrow we'll start again. That voice sounds very reasonable, very kind, very convincing. But there is one thing you must understand. That voice does not want you to become stronger. It wants you to be comfortable. The second voice is different. It is not pleasant. It is not gentle. Sometimes it is very direct. Get up. Get to work. Stop hiding. Most of the time, this voice makes you uncomfortable because it asks you to do what you do not want to do. But if you observe your life carefully, you will realize something. Every time you listen to the first voice, you feel comfortable for a few minutes. But afterward, you feel disappointed in yourself. And every time you listen to the second voice, that moment may feel uncomfortable. But afterward, you feel proud. A psychologist once said that human beings are shaped by small choices repeated over time. Not the big decisions in life, but the ordinary moments when you choose which voice to follow. There is a very simple story. A man named Chris once tried to change his life after years of procrastination. He decided to start exercising every morning. The first day was exciting. The second day was still fine. But by the third day, something familiar began to happen. The alarm rang at 5 a.m. The room was dark. His body was tired. And the familiar voice appeared. Go back to sleep. You need the rest. Chris lay there for a few seconds. He felt the familiar debate inside his head. One part wanted to get up. Another part wanted to return to sleep. And then he realized something very simple. That moment was a battle, not the gym, not the run. The real battle was the decision to leave the bed. That day he got up, not because he had motivation, not because he felt strong, simply because he wanted to win that small battle. The next day, the same thing. Then the day after that. 1 week passed. 2 weeks passed. Something interesting began to happen. The mornings became a little easier. Not because his body was stronger, but because his mind was becoming used to winning small battles. A coach once said that every day you have dozens of opportunities to defeat yourself. But most people do not even notice them because they think victory must be something big, a big project, a big success. But reality is different. Real victories are often very quiet. You get up when you want to sleep. You work when you want to procrastinate. You continue when you want to stop. No one sees it. No one applauds. But those moments are building the person you will become. There is a quote I always remember when thinking about this battle. The most dangerous opponent is the one who knows all your weaknesses. And when it comes to life, that opponent is you. You know exactly what scares you. You know what makes you procrastinate. You know when you are lying to yourself. That is why the battle between you and yourself is always difficult, because there is nowhere to hide. No excuse that truly convinces. Someone once said that maturity begins when you stop lying to yourself. When you look at your habits and say, yes, that was my fault. Yes, I wasted time. Yes, I chose the easy path. That moment is very difficult, but it is also very powerful. Because when you accept that truth, you take back control. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are responsible. And when you take responsibility for your life, something interesting begins to happen. You start changing small decisions. You start winning more battles. Not all of them, but more than yesterday. And each small victory begins to accumulate. But there is one thing that makes this battle especially difficult. Your opponent never disappears. The weaker version of you will always exist. It will always whisper, always try to pull you back toward comfort. So the real question is not how to eliminate it. The real question is how to become stronger than it. And in the next part, we will talk about how ordinary people build that strength through very simple actions every day. There is something very few people say directly when talking about discipline. You do not need a revolution in your life. You only need to win very ordinary moments. The moments that most people ignore. A man named Jordan once shared a very simple story. He used to be the kind of person who always started things with excitement, but rarely finished them. He bought books, read a few chapters, then stopped. He started going to the gym, went for a few weeks, then quit. Every year he set big goals for himself and forgot them after a few months. For many years he believed he lacked motivation. But one day he heard a sentence that made him think for a long time. A coach once said, "The problem is not that you lack motivation. The problem is that you have not learned how to tolerate discomfort." At first, that sentence annoyed Jordan because it was very direct. There were no excuses. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized it was true. Because every time he quit, the reason was always the same. Things started to become difficult. One winter morning, Jordan decided to try something different. Not to change his whole life, just to change how he reacted to discomfort. He set his alarm 30 minutes earlier than usual. When the alarm rang, the familiar situation appeared. The room was dark. His body was tired. The familiar voice appeared in his head. Go back to sleep. In the past, he always listened to that voice. But that day, he tried something simple. He stood up immediately. No thinking, no negotiation, just stood up. That moment was very small, nothing special. But in Jordan's mind, something different happened. He had just won a battle. That day, he walked for 20 minutes. No running, no intense training, just walking. The next day, he did it again. Then the day after that. Not every day was easy. There were days he wanted to quit. But whenever that happened, he remembered a very simple principle. If I quit today, who am I losing to? Not losing to other people, losing to myself. A psychologist once explained that the human mind learns through evidence. Every action you repeat becomes evidence of who you are. If you often procrastinate, your mind records one thing. You are a procrastinator. If you often quit, your mind records something else. You are someone who gives up easily. But if you consistently do difficult things, even a little every day, your mind begins to record a new story. You are someone who does not give up easily. That is where real strength begins. Not from positive affirmations, but from repeated action. A woman named Emma experienced something similar. She worked in a hospital with a very demanding schedule. After many years, she felt like she was losing control of her life. She wanted to change, but every time she tried, she returned to her old habits. One day, she decided to start with a very simple rule. Every day, do one difficult thing before 9 a.m. Just one thing. It did not have to be big. It could be exercising. It could be reading. It could be finishing a task she had been avoiding. What mattered was not whether the task was big or small. What mattered was that she had to do it, even when she did not want to. The first weeks were very difficult, but after some time, Emma noticed something interesting. The tasks that once made her feel pressured started to feel normal. She was no longer afraid of them. A coach once said that real confidence does not come from positive thinking. It comes from evidence. Evidence that you can do hard things. Evidence that you can continue when things become difficult. Evidence that you are no longer the same person you used to be. And each small piece of evidence begins to build a new version of you. But there is one truth you must understand if you want to win this battle. Your weaker version will never disappear. It will always be there. It will whisper on the days when you are tired. It will always try to pull you back to the easy path. So the goal is not to eliminate it. The goal is to become stronger than it. And that brings us to the final part of the story. The moment when you realize something very important. The battle between you and yourself will never end. But that is exactly what makes it worth fighting. There is a truth very few people want to hear about the battle between you and yourself. It does not have an ending. There is no moment when you wake up and say, I have won, because the weaker version of you will always exist. It will wait for the days when you are tired, the days when you fail, the days when you doubt yourself. And on those days, it will whisper very softly, you've tried hard enough, it's okay to stop. That is why many people think discipline is a short battle. They believe that if they try long enough, one day everything will become easy. But the people who are truly strong understand something different. This battle lasts a lifetime. A man named Michael once told a story that made me think for a long time. He once participated in an ultramarathon, a race that lasted more than 100 kilometers. In the first hours, everything was still fine. His body was tired but manageable, but after dozens of kilometers, everything began to change. His legs hurt, his lungs burned, every step became heavier, and then the familiar voice appeared in his head. Stop. No one will blame you. Michael said that moment felt very strange. No one around him was forcing him to stop. No one was telling him he could not continue. There was only a conversation inside his mind. One part said he had come too far to quit. Another part said the pain was not worth it. He kept running a few more steps, then a few more, not because he felt strong, but because he decided that he would not lose to himself that day. After finishing the race, he said something very interesting. The most important moment was not when he crossed the finish line. It was when he decided to continue, at the moment he most wanted to quit. That is the true nature of the battle between you and yourself. Not the easy days. Not the days when you are full of motivation, but the days when you want to stop, yet you continue. A philosopher once said that a strong person is not someone who never feels weak. It is someone who does not allow weakness to decide their life. If you look at the people with the strongest willpower, you will notice something they all share. They are not more special than you. They also feel tired. They also feel fear. They also have days when they want to quit. But they have a different habit. When the battle appears, they step into it. They do not avoid it. They do not blame others. They do not wait for motivation. They ask a very simple question. Which version of me will win today? The version that wants comfort, or the version that wants to become stronger? The interesting thing is that the answer to that question is never decided once. It is decided every single day, every morning when you wake up. Every time you stand in front of a difficult choice, every time you have the chance to avoid something or face it. And each of those small decisions begins to create distance. The distance between the person you are today and the person you could become. One day, when you look back, you will realize something very clearly. The greatest battle of your life was never with other people, not with society, not with circumstances. It has always been between you and yourself. And the greatest victory in your life will not be when you defeat the world. It will be when you look into the mirror and know that you did not quit on yourself.